Hey everybody, KC here. So those of you who have followed Morning Newsbeat over the years know that I've always been extraordinarily enthusiastic about the Retail Tomorrow initiative that was started by GMDC. They did some amazing things. We went from Northern California to Los Angeles to New York to Boston. We went to the Google campus in Silicon Valley. We went to MIT. And the whole goal was to kind of raise the level of conversation about innovation and get people to think about how to move outside traditional boundaries when thinking about how to grow their businesses. One of the things we talked about a lot was the whole notion of uncommon partnerships, alliances where you could get 1 + 1 = 3, 1 + 1 = 4. Really interesting stuff. Now, you may know that GMDC is shutting down its operations, a victim of the pandemic, then the changing sort of economic environment. But Retail Tomorrow is going to continue on. Co-founder Patrick Spear, who's been the CEO of GMDC, he's going to continue with it. And they're going to be doing their own conferences, but they're also going to be doing blocks of sessions, educational sessions at other organizations' meetings. For example, at the end of February, National Grocers Association, Sunday afternoon is going to feature a lot of Retail Tomorrow programming, general sessions, breakout sessions. I'm going to be part of it. Tom Furphy's going to be a part of it. And in addition, Retail Tomorrow is also going to be a regular feature here on Morning Newsbeat. Patrick Spear and I are going to talk to some of the thought leaders out there who would sometimes appear at Retail Tomorrow events, and we're going to talk to them about the ways in which they see the world changing and try and get retailers and suppliers to think differently about the retail world going forward. And our first guest in this particular segment is Vic Gatto, and Vic is the co-founder of Jumpstart Health Investors. Vic is also going to be part of the NGA program that Retail Tomorrow is running. And I was really excited about Vic being part of this opening segment because his view of the world is that, the healthcare business has to change enormously going forward. A lot of the weaknesses we've discovered through the pandemic. And he believes that retail, and especially food retail, it can be an important part of that changing infrastructure going forward. And, I've always believed that food retail has a much stronger role to play in terms of healthcare. You can go back to the old guiding eyes labels on food that would tell you what was good, best, and good, better, best for you when you chose them in the aisles. I've always believed that a thick black line could be drawn between the products that were being offered in a lot of pharmacies inside supermarkets and the food that they were selling, the fresh food that could actually, keep you healthy as opposed to addressing problems in a reactive sort of way. So Patrick and I recorded this conversation with Vic Gatto. We're going to talk about a little bit about what he's doing and his vision for what the world will look like, his vision of Retail Tomorrow. Enjoy. Well, Vic Gatto, Patrick Spear, welcome to Morning Newsbeat. I'm really excited about this whole Morning Newsbeat at Retail Tomorrow arrangement that we have. And Vic, I'm excited that you're going to be the first guest that we have as we do these recordings. Tell us a little bit about Jumpstart Investors. I mean, as I understand it from talking to Patrick and reading some of your materials online, basically what you do is you invest in solutions that you believe are going to shape the future of healthcare, and that you think that retail, especially food retail, can play a powerful role in that infrastructure. So tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. Thanks, Kevin. I'm honored to be the first guest, hopefully the first of many guests. So I guess I've been a VC for a little over 20 years, 21 years. 8 years ago, started my own firm with one other guy, Jumpstart. And really the idea was to take a different approach to healthcare investing, because we think it's the opportunity of our generation. It's the place where we really need to shape the future for our grandkids and for our kids. And if we can make a lot of money in the process, all the better. And of course, that was pre-COVID. And we've all been made aware in the last 24 months, unfortunately, how foundational health is to our society. I think the reality is we have to bring innovation to bear. We have to redesign it. It's not satisfactory outcomes today. And I'm really enthusiastic and excited about some of the opportunities that are coming to market right now. And I think retail, and we can talk about it in a minute, I'm going to be talking at a conference coming up. Patrick's been helping me get connected there about the opportunity in grocery, particularly, and in food, because I think that's where it all starts, and educating consumers about the impact of food, and then helping them understand how they can then become more healthy for their own benefit to live better lives is really an incredible opportunity.
And we should say that conference is actually the National Grocers Association conference, end of February. And on the first day, which is Sunday, February 27th, there will be a Retail Tomorrow block of programming, which I'm going to be part of as well. I'm very excited about that. So Patrick, and actually, as I understand it, some of what Vic is talking about is stuff that really got you, set you on the Retail Tomorrow path very early on when you were CEO of GMDC.
That's right, Kevin. And Vic, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me on, Kevin. You know, it is interesting. I've known Vic now. Vic, you and I probably go back close to 10 years. And when I first came over to GMDC, one of the early conversations I had was with Vic and his partners around the opportunity specifically within retail and the need for retail to think about the role that innovation can play, whether it's product, service, or format innovation. And quite frankly, that was one of the kernels, if you will, that sprouted into Retail Tomorrow, was this conversation I had with Vic and a few others around the need. And here we are, a number of years later, and I think, quite frankly, Kevin, and I know you talk about this a lot, the need hasn't dissipated. If anything, it's only strengthened and increased. So I'm excited about what we're going to do at the NGA show in late February. To your point, we'll kick off on Sunday afternoon, February 27th, and our focus is going to be on the shopping experience of the future and how we think about the shopping experience of the future, predicated on what we call the heartbeat of consumer demand. And Vic and a number of other thought leaders will really, I think, inform and ideally inspire the NGA attendees around how we think about the innovation imperative, the role that uncommon partnerships will play in helping us innovate. And that gets to Vic, how you think about health and wellness and self-care innovation and the role that retail can play in it. So let's talk, Vic, a little bit about, you've been eyeing the space for a while, but really as you think about whether it's legacy providers, healthcare providers, or payers, the insurance companies, but now as we think about, let's call it another pillar in that system, retail, how you and your partners think about grocery or retail as a means to create more optimal health and wellness.
Yeah, so I guess my job is to try to look out a little bit into the future and develop scenarios or predict where an industry is going, and then place bets down that will pay off well if that's right. And so there's really two big themes that we see coming out of COVID that are, I think, both playing into this interest in getting more health and wellness products and partnerships in the retail setting. And so the first is that the traditional silos, Patrick, you mentioned this, the traditional silos of, I have a hospital, I have an insurance company, I have a doctor I see, I get my prescriptions at a pharmacy, and I get my pain medication and other over-the-counter drugs at a grocery store. All of those silos, and we could name 5 or 6 others, they're being blended together, all kind of mashed up, and we're coming out with new platforms really driven by big players in the space. So you can talk about Walmart or Kroger or Google, Apple, Ascension, CVS, Walgreens. There are 10, 12 multinational, huge players that are bringing solutions across the spectrum in all of these silos. And they're really forcing the need for, Patrick has taught me this uncommon partnership theme. I love the term. It's exactly what we've been working on for the past 5 years. I didn't have the right nomenclature to call it. Like, can we bring together a grocer with an entrepreneur and really try to bring to market a great solution for the customer? And so that sort of breaking down of silos, blending everything together is the first big theme. The second theme is what I call the rise of the consumer in health. Consumers used to sort of do what the guy used to be, usually a guy in the white coat, told him to do. And so you would show up and doc would say, do this thing. And I would say, yes, sir, and go on and do it. Those days are over. So now consumers are rising up and trying to take control of their own health. And yet they need help. They need products, they need education, they need services. And what's great about the grocer is my wife is at the grocery store 3 days a week. We have teenage boys. She's there all the time trying to keep them fed. And there's an opportunity to engage with the shopper around things they're very passionate about that they need help with. And they trust their grocery store. They're getting all of their supplies there. I think it's pretty short bridge to then teach them about healthcare and sort of give them the power to control their own health.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can remember years ago, Lunds and Byerly's in Minneapolis, and they were doing Pillpack. I don't think it was Pillpack they were doing, but they had that kind of system where they could help people understand by day what medicines they were supposed to have, and also trying to help them understand how to connect that to what they were eating. So if you had cancer in your family, then you should eat tomatoes because they have like I forget what they have. They have whatever the compound is that it can be cancer fighting. And that's really, is that really what, because there's a couple of different things going on here, right? Because if you look at what Walmart, say, and CVS are doing in terms of building out these clinics in their stores, so they're more than just a place where you can, get a flu shot or something. That's one piece of it. And then that goes beyond traditional pharmacy. But if you're also going to talk about using food as medicine in the sense of preventive care as opposed to reactive care, that's an entirely different component of it. Although one I think that most retailers out there have not exploited to the degree that they can and should.
Yeah, I would say it's both ends. I am interested in both of those solutions, right? So people need advice. They need dietary advice from somewhere. And I think the reality is right now, I'm 51 years old, right? So every 51-year-old, you're getting a lot of annual checkups. I have good health now, but there'll be a time when I have high cholesterol or I have whatever. And the doctor will say, I need you to be on a low sodium diet, or I need you to do something. And the way it works, I think, just in human behavior is the man comes home and says, honey, I got to figure out how to do this new diet thing. And there's no guidance for that. And the grocery stores are very well positioned to help me with that, but they don't capitalize on that. Like, they know the different products and they can be reimbursed. I will pay them to help patients from a medical point of view, shoppers from the grocery point of view, navigate the aisles appropriately. The beautiful thing about this is that often that advice will shift me to the outside of the store to the higher margin, more fresh options, and increase frequency, increase basket size, and it's higher margin, so it's a higher basket and more profitable. And so by doing the right thing, they also are driving more frequent visits and I think a better mix of products.
Well, it's interesting because, there's a terrific little company out there, startup called Sifter. And Sifter basically allows you to use an app as a consumer to be able to quite literally sift product selection based on whatever your priorities and health needs are. And they just signed a deal with Walmart. And so Walmart is going to both allow you to be able to sift your product selection both in store and online based on that. And I think that sounds like a perfect example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. What I'm interested in is empowering the regional and local stores who want to compete with Walmart. I think Walmart and all the big guys are looking for a solution that can be sort of automated across the country. And there's a role for that. It's certainly scalable. I think a lot of people, a lot of individuals they'd rather go to the grocer that they've been going to and their mom went to and they've been to for a long time, but they need help. And a lot of times it might be not quite as scalable, but what we're pulling together is a sort of a group of stores combined with entrepreneurial companies and some doctors and hospital systems and insurance companies that can come together and say, let's cobble together a full solution. This uncommon partnership is what I'll be talking about in Vegas. How do we make this work so that we all can effectively compete with the big boys and really outperform them? Right. And so that's kind of what I'm excited about, is that empowering these solutions for the customers and also to allow all of the competitors in the marketplace to really have a chance to win.
You know, and I think, Kevin, it's an interesting point, Vic. And Kevin, it speaks to something that we've thought about for a long time around the Retail Tomorrow platform. And how do we expose innovation for the rest of us, right? How do we democratize access to the ideas, the products, the technologies, and the services that can inform and inspire customers and the customer experience? You know, and so Vic, to your point, listen, the innovation that's occurring with the bigs, let's call them that, right? The nationals, is fantastic. It's great. And I applaud them. But my thesis, and it sounds like, Vic, to a certain degree yours as well, is that it's not just the purview of the bigs, right? That we can aggregate, we can bring into conversation, we can form these uncommon partnerships to introduce, to develop, to expose the innovation for the rest of us. We can create not just distribution opportunities for those innovators, we can create investment opportunities for those that want to come in and invest in the future ideas that will inspire better healthcare, better self-care, better health and wellness outcomes. Is that a fair summary, Vic?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I don't view it as a competitive thing. I think healthcare is big enough that we need all the solutions. Like, it's wonderful what Walmart's doing, and it's not going to be enough.
Right.
And so, and a lot of it is just understanding what's needed. So I'll just give you a quick example. Every hospital in the world is trying to get the patients home faster. So can I do a hip surgery and have you home that night? And the answer is, from a medical, clinical point of view, a lot of times, yeah, if you're reasonably healthy, we can get you home that day. But we need to get support to your home. And I talk to a lot of health systems. Do you know what the number one concern is? It's going to blow your mind. Huh. They can't be sure they're going to get food to the patient. Wow. And so they can't send them home because they don't know that they're going to have the right food at the right time. And then that causes complications. And what do the grocers, how many grocers have prepared food kitchens? Almost every one. And they are right near in the neighborhood where these patients are going. And so what I'm excited about to sort of explore in Vegas and over the next months and years is just bringing together the right partners. We're not asking a grocer to reinvent a new thing and invent some biopharmaceutical thing that they don't know how to do. We're asking them to take the prepared food they're already doing and then deliver it or let it be picked up in a way that then allows the hospital to do what they want to do and that the patient do what they want to do. It's really connecting the dots and not reinventing things.
Wow.
But that's really interesting. That's one of their biggest concern, is making sure the patients are being fed. But let me just play devil's advocate for a minute, which is, I can imagine that independent retailers could hear this and say, it sounds like a great opportunity. Sounds terrific. My problem is I don't have enough staff to man my cash registers or my checkouts. And I don't have enough, and I got supply chain issues. And you want me to make an investment in the healthcare business in which I really don't have any expertise? I mean, I do think that one of the problems that independents and retailers, depending on their size, have is that there are way too many fires to put out and not nearly enough water and enough hoses. And so what is the mechanism or what is the for getting them to get past their concerns about being able to about making a value proposition that they can't deliver on?
I mean, I think that's fair. And I think one has to look at the world through one of two lenses. I don't think there's any other way to look at the world. You either look at the world through a view of scarcity or abundance. And there's no question that there are workforce concerns. It's true in grocery, it's true in retail, it's true in hospitality, it's true in hospitals, it's true in insurance. There is a shortage of workers, and my view is they're not coming back. And so there are not enough workers to do the business that we used to do in any of these industries as we all were growing up. So hospitals have to change, insurance companies have to change, I think grocers have to change. That is the reality we all face. I don't think it is easy. I'm not suggesting it's easy. What I'm suggesting is that the only way forward is to try to think creatively and find ways that are going to increase your gross margin, allow you to pay people more, allow you to attract employees that are mission driven and excited about changing the health of their community. And by the way, they want to be paid a higher wage.
Right.
And then that can solve it in a sort of a out of the box thinking is too cliche, but like, let's try to approach solving these issues, which I certainly agree exist, in a way that is not sort of crying in our, crying in the corner saying, gosh, I can't find any workers, I'm just in trouble, and try to find a way to, let's pay them more, let's give them more exciting job, more variety of job. And I think some companies, some grocers will find a way to do that. I don't think it's easy, but I also don't think it's easy to keep beating on the status quo, even though there's no workers.
Yeah.
Kevin, I want to, and Vic, your comment around your conversation with health systems and what is an impediment to getting people home. And, I think about the term social determinants of health and how do we create, access to healthcare for people that otherwise might not have it. But I've never in my 35 years in the business heard what you've said to me today, Vic, which I had no idea that was a tangible, salient issue for healthcare and when they release somebody to go home, access to food, ensuring it's there. So Kevin, I think about that and maybe, to your devil's advocate question, maybe the opportunity then is around process and around education. If the healthcare systems in any given town or city are talking to the grocery operators, to those that are preparing or enabling food to be delivered or picked up or shopping in the store, just connecting those dots. I think, Vic, you mentioned connecting the dots. So it sounds like an opportunity just around process and around education that can perhaps help begin to optimize and help really begin to cement the role that a retailer can play in this whole conversation and, quite frankly, the larger narrative.
Yeah, I think that's what we do. I've found that it is hard to add to a leader's day to, okay, you're running your hospital and you're running your store. Now add an hour a week to go compare notes. And so Jumpstart takes that on and we say, we will understand what are the pain points for all these different constituencies. And then we will help find solutions for you. I mean, that's my job to do. Right. It would be great for people to collaborate ad hoc. I just haven't found it that often going on.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about the world can be separated into people who see it as scarcities and abundance, but I think the retail world can be separated into people who, let's say in food retail, some retailers see themselves as selling boxes and bags and cartons, and that's it, right? They're in the transaction business. And then there are some retailers who see themselves as being in the business of helping families eat better and nourishing their families, nurturing their families. They see it in an entirely different way. And the retailers that would be, I think, quicker to sign on to this notion would be the ones who see themselves in that kind of broader context, who don't see themselves just as selling stuff. Because the advantage of something like this, it seems to me, in a sort of cold commercial sense, is that if you're involved in a program like what you're talking about, you're not just being transactional, you're actually creating a deeper and more intimate relationship with your shopper that is more sustainable long-term, and that is less likely to be disrupted by Walmart or Amazon or CVS or some other company like that. I mean, there's a very cold competitive calculation to be made here.
Yeah, I mean, it is depending on how you look at it, right? It's the right thing to do for the community, and it also creates customer lock-in, right? Like if I am getting my health advice from this grocery store, am I likely to react to a coupon pulling me somewhere else? No. So it's a great thing to do. I think it makes a difference in the community, and it also is just a cold-hearted, better business practice. And it's both of those things. And I think that's the beauty of it, is you can have both.
And while I played the devil's advocate, I also think there will be retailers that you will meet at NGA and they may have one store, they may have 3 stores, they may have 5 stores, who will say, all right, sign me up. Where do I get started? How do I get started? Who will want to be a kind of laboratory to see how this will work? And I think that'll be, then the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah, that's to me, that's the beauty of this, is that you don't have to solve it all at once, right? Healthcare is huge, right? It's approaching $4 trillion per year, so 4,000 billion a year. There's lots of submarkets that are pretty interesting, and you can just say, I like to talk about demographics with retailers. Like, what demographic do you want to attract, right? Are you trying to attract new moms? Because if you get a new mom to shop in your store, they're going to be there for many years and spend a lot of money. Like, is that the demographic you're looking? Then let's find products that new moms care about, right? So maybe it's about feeding and breastfeeding and things for new babies, or it's for as the babies turn into toddlers and grow up. And so in healthcare, you can target very particular demographics with products and services that are designed for that demo. And that's, I think you should pick one demographic and literally run an experiment in 2 stores and not in 2 other stores. And then I'm all about data analytics. Let's run the math and compare it to each other, so that a year from now, if it's working in half your stores where you're doing this test on, then you can go to your leadership or your shareholders and say, we should do more of this because it's going to make us money.
And I think too, yeah, and Kevin, Vic said early on, the opportunity here is for the let's think about it as the ecosystem. Whether you're a retailer, an operator, whether you're a innovator, you're developing a product or service, or you're the investor, you're the VC, there's the opportunity for everybody to do well and do good. And I think that's what's really key here. As we think about the role that Kevin, our ecosystem can play in this, the retailers and the manufacturers and the partners, with a focus on this, is an opportunity to do well and do good, which is really important and quite frankly not that easy to find these days.
Well, I know that the premise has all along been, that retailers that do business the way they were doing business yesterday, if they don't start doing business tomorrow in fundamentally different ways, they're not going to be in business. So I'm certainly signed up for that premise. Well, listen, this has been great. This is just a taste of, I know, what we're going to talk about on stage at NGA. Vic, I hope you'll come back and talk as you start to do tests and start to see how things play out. I hope you'll come back to Morning Newsbeat and the Retail Tomorrow on Morning Newsbeat and give us an update and tell us how things are playing out.
Yeah, we'll do status reports. So I'll see you all in Vegas at the conference, and then maybe at the craps table.
Perfect.
Good. Take care, everybody. See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.